Right now on the flip side, we have Andrew McCourt, of course, and Levi Lusko, the author of I Declare War. Levi is going to give us an incredible answer to this question, what makes me feel really alive? You don't want to miss it right now on the flip side. Hey everyone, and welcome again to the flip side, where we try to get the Bible in our life every single day, not just Sundays. And this is a special Southwest Thrive leadership episode. And as you see to my right, we're joined by best-selling author and pastor and just all-around great guy, Levi Lusko. Levi, welcome to the flip side.
Hey, appreciate it. Thanks for having me. It's awesome.
And of course, Andrew's here. And of course, before we talk deep theological stuff, we're going to get some coffee into our
Needs to
veins.
happen.
Haley, what do we got here? What do we got?
Well, we're sticking with the Joshua Tree Coffee Company. This
Come on.
whole Thrive.
I
we're
like
up in the
that.
area.
Joshua Tree.
So
Yeah.
Got that Irish connection.
Heard all about
light
it.
Ethiopian.
Oh, perfect.
This is a light.
You'll probably taste some brighter flavor notes. They didn't give us any. It just says light roast.
Brighter flavor notes. Is it
Brighter.
Ethiopian?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
this is what we had the last time. This is the same stuff.
It's the
Because
same.
this
I'll
stuff
get you
had
more
me
for the
like.
next episode.
This
Is that
stuff
an
had
objection,
me.
or did you like it before?
No, well, it's the caffeine level. It had me like 2 degrees underneath meth.
It's
I mean,
like-
my teeth were
Ooh, I
pulling
like
out.
it.
But I had a
That's
great
That's
afternoon.
really good.
Yeah, we'll take
What did you
some
say the flavor profile was?
They didn't give us one. It just said light roast, which
Well,
I hate those flavor notes.
so Ethiopian tends to be high fruit forward.
High
Yeah.
acidity.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So enjoy.
Very good.
I had too many nasal steroids in the
Cheers, man.
70s.
Hey, come on now.
Sláinte.
So,
Come on now.
sláinte.
There we go.
So we're going to get right into it. What we do on the flip side here is we look at all the
Do
content.
you know how much better than almost any interview I've ever been a part of or podcast
Yes.
this just became?
Just by this.
I saw the mugs. I saw coffee. I didn't know this was going to happen. And when that all just came together, it was like Venus and the moon and the North Star had a baby. And the baby brought me a cup of coffee on the moon. That's what
Good,
was,
that's
that was
good.
like.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
It was
That's
great.
awesome. Well, this is our 21st hour of recording flip
Yeah.
sides at this. So I'm glad for the caffeine, just because
Oh my
we are
gosh.
going hard after leadership
That's right.
ideas.
I like
Caught
it.
a vein, we would bleed
Yes.
I
Ethiopian
just
right now.
really was expecting not great coffee, and then great coffee happened, and here we were.
Yeah.
I was expecting
And a
like
decent
conference
amount.
coffee, but that was like legit coffee from Joshua trees. Now I've got like U2 things happening, which is now we're back to Ireland.
That's it.
Yeah.
It all comes back to Ireland. I can hear the streets have no name.
They were
right
telling
behind
me that Bono could just walk down the street in Dublin, not get bugged at all.
Oh, of course
Is that
not.
true?
Yeah. Oh, we've no celebrities in Ireland. We don't celebrate anyone.
It's
No,
the,
but
We're all
they
just
don't like-
normal.
they don't like
I've
the
been to
tall poppy
Ireland
thing.
with you, and they were flocking and touching the hem
well,
of
You
your
ever wanted a
garden.
selfie with you?
I'm from the north.
That's funny. Wow, that's the thing. I didn't realize there were 2 Irelands.
Yes, there are indeed.
Did you know there's 2
Yeah.
Irelands?
I did know that.
I didn't know that.
He
I didn't pay
reminds
attention
us.
in history class.
Quite a
The
bit.
2 Irelands, the Catholic thing, the Anglican
Yeah.
thing.
In the
right?
4
That's
years we
divide.
worked together,
But have you
I've
been to
learned
the
more
north?
about Ireland
No.
than...
You need to come to the north.
Sure.
You really
Let's
got to
go.
do that.
But so, like for real, like the tall poppy thing is what they were saying it is. They're trying to cut down the tall poppy, which they say that in Australia too.
I don't know what. Come on,
The
talk to
tall
me.
poppies, like it's any flower that gets taller than the rest. They don't like.
Sorry, I thought you
Oh.
meant literal. I was
So
thinking First World War poppies.
the Bono thing that he walked, or like Conor
Yes.
McGregor that he
Yes.
could just chill
Yes.
because they don't like to recognize that he's a celebrity
Yes.
because that's the tall poppy.
That's correct. And it's kind of sad. It's like the crabs in the bucket that just pulls.
They wanna
each
pull 'em
other
down.
Where America is just celebrate, celebrate. So in a test in Ireland, or you call it a quiz here, in a test in Ireland, you can probably get like into the 80s, but the 90s is just like, bleeding nose altitude. You don't really get there. In America, you can get 110%.
Oh,
That's
if
right.
you get
That's right.
Yeah,
What?
Right.
Yes.
Right.
No, there's 100%. But in Ireland,
But
no,
of
we
the
keep you
two,
down.
Connor Bono,
Yeah.
who would be a bigger deal walking downtown without doubling anything?
Well, I know who would win a fight and who would win a singing contest. You
no,
just
but
gotta go.
who would get the biggest crowd if he was just cruising down the street?
I still think Bono is like our saint.
Okay.
He's the modern saint.
That makes
he really
sense.
is. They love him.
You have a
They
flip
do.
side first. I have not talked in 4 minutes.
There you go.
Look at the whole production crew's that. It's
liked
a
it.
Thrive Southwest miracle, people.
But everyone,
funny.
it was St. Patrick's at the weekend. Do you know what I'm
was
saying?
St. Patrick's
oh,
on the
Danny boy, the pipes, the pipe.
Ever since McElroy won the golf, he's
Rory.
on cloud nine.
God is
so.
with him. I did.
Okay, what's God doing in your church? A simple question.
Oh,
What is
my gosh.
good about what's happening in Montana and Utah and Oregon and everywhere you guys are at?
Oh, man, that's such a great question. This weekend, we just launched our 13th church. So
Wow, phenomenal.
And it was in a prison. So we got clearance from the Department of Corrections to actually go to Montana's only, state prison, maximum security state prison, and open up a church in the prison. So it's full service of volunteers from two of our churches are each in about 45 minutes away. So they drove in a team of about 20 people. They'll be doing it every Tuesday. And we set up in the Gen Pop, not maximum security, but in the level below that, the normal population. And basically, they gave us space for it. They gave us the green light. We fundraised for it last fall. And we, through the prison, I don't know how they do it, but they put bulletin boards up to invite the inmates to come. And you had to have good behavior to be able to go and all that stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it was amazing because there's 1,500 inmates, and they told us, you'll be lucky if you get 4 people. So they set up, in this room, and 71 inmates showed up.
So cool.
71.
That's so cool.
The prison was blown away. They said they've never seen anything like it.
Yep.
They said they were like absolutely blown away.
Yes.
It's beginning to end full service on video. So we set up big projector and it's worship and all that.
Yep.
So anyhow, 21 inmates raised their hands and gave their lives to Jesus.
So wonderful.
Our team was saying that on the way out, one guy came up. He had tattoos all over his face, just completely just hardened guy. And he said that was unbelievable. He goes, "Will you guys ever come back again and do an event like this again?" And the volunteer said, "We'll be here next Tuesday. This is church. We're gonna be here every week." And the guy just literally started bawling.
It's just incredible, the power of that hope. We're not leaving.
So good.
The prison chaplain asked us, would we be open to doing a second service for maximum security for the higher offenders?
Right.
And so they would clear the room and then bring in, because they can't mix those two populations.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so we're like, yes, we will. So they're going through the clearance of that right now. So that's
cool.
my favorite thing at the moment.
That's good.
That's
so
awesome.
listen to this here. So when you come to Bayside, remember that.
Yeah.
When you come to Bayside, you'll get to preach at Folsom Prison.
Stop.
Johnny
Johnny
Cash.
Cash.
Oh, that's
says,
Johnny
I
Cash
fell
stuff.
into a burning ring. Stop it. And
You should stick
wrong
with the Irish
podcast.
songs.
Wrong
Sorry.
podcast.
Sorry.
You leave the American voice to us. We'll take it from here.
No, seriously, our 8:15 service is broadcast into Folsom Prison. It's Bayside behind bars.
And he's been in there live. And the thing is,
Yeah.
we're just shocked how connected that campus is to us.
Yeah.
Wow.
They know our spouses. They know our stories. They're following the teaching. And then last weekend, we had a man who'd been incarcerated 35 years, got out, came with 20 of his friends and families. They're all weeping on the front row.
How does that-
worshiping with us?
How long have you guys been doing that?
It started like last year, probably
year.
in September. Yeah, it is just gone.
Did you guys have you guys in that time? It's been only a year, but have you seen any impact on the recidivism rate at all?
Well, what the guards are telling us is, see, it's the same thing. You have to have good behavior to get to the service. So everyone wants to have good behavior, and our problem there is we can only fit a certain amount of men in the room.
What is the room?
We are now at 220.
Okay, yeah.
And so we need to go multi-service.
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
We need to work on it
Wow.
because sometimes they're in the yard trying to.
And is
look
it
through.
generally video as well?
It's video. We did
with
live
like a week delay kind of thing.
link to the family.
Yep.
So the families that are out of prison can
Watch the
kind
same
of be-
thing.
Yeah. And so it's a
Well, we were
beautiful
told
thing.
that the national recidivism rate is 75%, because 95% of prisoners will get out,
right.
and that's crazy.
Yeah.
But 75% will go back.
Yeah.
Right.
And they said that there was a study done in Florida where they have churches in prisons. If the inmates go in the prison and then when they get out, and that's key,
They
of
get
course.
too
If
deep, yep.
they get plugged back in, the one study showed that it impacts the recidivism rate down to 25%.
That's incredible.
Which is life-changing. And I was
Yeah.
thinking, remember that
The
movie,
community
Minority
changing.
Report?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Where he would stop crimes that never
Anticipate.
happened?
Yeah.
I was thinking, like, what you guys are doing, what this
Yeah.
is a part of, it could stop crimes that never happened in the first place.
It's like the gospel actually works. It's strange.
Hello.
Stop crimes that never. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm right. I mean, it's the
coming
person
to
whose
a
life's
sermon
changed.
near you
and
soon.
Come on. No, that's my stuff.
It's there you go.
What are you guys teaching on?
So I'm going through the Apostles' Creed right now.
Awesome.
I'm in a 7-week ramp up towards Easter, and this weekend I'll be preaching suffered under Pontius Pilate, crucified, died, and was buried, and descended to the dead. And that's, for me, so important because our students, they're going off to college. Do they understand what they believe?
Yep.
I think a lot of times it's, faith messages and God loves you. But I really want our church to have an awareness of the load-bearing walls of Christianity historically.
What a great phrase.
And what has been, handed down to us.
Right.
Because it's the oldest creed, besides the ones that are in the Scripture.
Right, yeah. Awesome.
That's awesome.
And so you're going through the Apostles' Creed.
I have a great series title for that, too.
Yeah?
What's it called?
Creed.
Oh,
And it felt very on point with
that's good.
Rocky Balboa's resurgence and
All right.
Perfect.
Yeah, that's good.
and the band
Yeah.
with arms wide open.
Oh, yeah.
I totally understand.
Yeah, sure.
He may not. Do you know the band
The
Creed?
Creed, yeah. I've
It's
heard
like
of Creed.
Nickelback, basically.
yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's that.
Yeah,
they
we used to
sing
have these
soft at
teams
the
that came
beginning.
from
Very
America.
very bad music.
Yeah.
We
Sing
need
soft
teams
at the
that came
beginning
from
and then
America.
Luckily, the
and they
teenagers
did-
don't have an awareness. My daughter has off camera. She has no idea what that is all about. Yeah.
What was the song they did? And
We're
we used to
riveting.
get
We're
human
riveting to her.
dramas. It was human
Yeah, but
dramas.
you're talking about Carmen the Champion.
No, it was like. That,
Sorry,
that's
Harold.
the
What
other
were you
one.
saying
Sorry,
before
keep
that? Carmen. Goodness.
Okay, so for those folks
Yeah.
that either were here at this conference when we're or for those that didn't get to be here, which not a good choice, but give us a little view of what you're teaching right here at Thrive Leadership.
Yeah, so a
Thrive,
big part
Southwest.
of framing this message came from what I've really been struggling through and growing in as a leader myself the last, I'd say I've been giving concerted effort to it for about 3 years, and that's self-management and emotional intelligence. I think it's so easy in ministry to be quote unquote successful on whatever level, and you can define that how you want. But in a business term, let's talk about, let's use the ultimate example would be like a Steve Jobs. Here's a guy who's a genius. Obviously, he used that as his company's standard.
Right.
But by every other measure, besides financial success and changing the game, he was also a failure relationally, interpersonally. Working for him, you never felt like he believed in you or fought for you. There's such conflict and all of the strife, and it really seems like from an outside perspective, and I've only read the books and watched the movies. It seemed like there's a lack of self-management, self-awareness, and emotional intelligence in the sense that he was pouty, mercurial, and I feel like sometimes that can creep into how we approach leadership.
Yeah.
That as long as I'm successful, it doesn't really matter if I'm actually kind of a jerk. And
Right.
so God kind of spoke to me through a 360 evaluation I was doing and getting feedback and listening to the Lord and looking at my leadership blind spots, that there were some holes in it in that way. And so this message that I'm giving is kind of the outflow of that exercise where I just basically had God speak to me and say, your impact on situations is not what it could be or should be. And that was a tough pill to swallow,
Wow.
but began a journey for me of actually assessing, that my bad moods were driving bad behavior, and I was in my own way.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Wow, that's so good. Here, just simple question for everyone to try to get to know you a little bit. So that's what you're doing, but really who you are. What makes you fully alive when you're doing it? You're just like, oh my goodness, born
And
for
by the
this.
way, as a real big fan of Montana, I'm hoping for a certain answer. But
Well, I'm going to just be completely honest with you. I love like the chase of buying something that's like really unique and specific and finding the exact right thing, like on Amazon. Like I feel like if there's a spiritual gift, of finding the right thing on Amazon,
Shopping.
Prime.
You're just like the purpose-driven
great.
But
shopper.
if I can find the right thing at the right, like for perfect example,
your daughter's off camera going,
am I
this
right?
is so true.
this is true. I mean, I could give you all the things. I
Confessions.
mean, I've hiked in with a string load of mules into the Bob Marshall Wilderness and camped. I've done all these. I've done all the Montana stuff that you can imagine and stuff you can't probably. But I will say that what I feel fully alive doing is online shopping. And
Can I just say,
the perfect example,
sorry, can I just say, I'm so disappointed.
Well,
I was
it's real. This is the flipped.
What is it? No, that's totally Ray. By the way, our founding pastor, this is totally Ray. If you text Ray and go, hey, I'm looking for, he will blow up your phone for the next 3 days.
Well, the worst thing you could ever do to me if you work for me, and this comes back to the self-awareness thing, would be to tell me, like, I couldn't find it. Like that thing I should get, that didn't exist.
Yeah.
Like, wait, you want me to give me your phone and we'll just find it right now? Because give me 3 minutes and an internet connection and we will have what we're looking for. It'll be on a plane here tomorrow. And like we were in our big build out and we just finished our broadcast campus, and we have this big greenery wall where it's like the green grass on a wall.
Yeah.
Right.
And we got into this big thing the week before our opening where the fire inspector said that it was not rated commercial. The stuff we had, our designer had bought stuff that wasn't commercially rated. Anyhow, we had no time to go back to the company and get the right stuff. And she said to me, it's not going to be here for the opening, the designer. And I was like, oh, it's not? She goes, no. I said, what about Amazon? She goes, there's no way it's on Prime, commercial rated green foliage walls that could be here. And I was like, and it was like almost like challenge accepted.
Red rag.
15 minutes later, it was
my
literally hold my beer while and sure enough, we opened with the wall on that. And my daughter's nodding up and down. Yes, exactly.
There you go, Olivia.
Because I feel like that's what God put me on this earth for.
Oh, that is so.
It's beautiful.
Said the purpose-driven shopper.
Beautiful. I was hoping
I'm also
for
pretty good at researching flights,
Okay.
figuring out car rental. Like,
See, now that's a real
I'd be a
skill.
great PA.
That's a great skill.
Yeah.
I was hoping you'd say fly fishing because I go to Montana 3 times a year.
Where do you go?
I go to the Bighorn mostly.
Sure.
But I love the Yellowstone.
So where do you fly into?
Gallaudet.
Bozeman? Billings?
No, Billings.
Yeah, okay.
I got a great friend, Brian Carpenter.
Oh, yeah, Refuge.
Foundation.
Yeah.
I started that. I was the first
That's
burned
great.
out pastor.
Hilarious.
They looked at him and said, make him fish.
Well, I get invited to go to events there all the time, which tells me people may think I'm burnt out. However, when I get on a plane, I don't want to go to Montana.
Right, totally.
And to get there on a plane, I'd have to fly in 2 planes.
Yes.
I'd have to fly to Salt Lake,
Montana.
then fly there.
Yeah.
Or it's an 8-hour drive to Billings
Yes.
from where I live. So I just don't do it, but I think it's amazing. And we go up to the Bob a lot, and we'll camp out in there and stuff, and fly fish on the way out. And it's underfished because you have to.
That's the secret.
It's a 2-hour drive and a 5-hour horseback ride to get into the
go.
Bob because there's no cell service. Have you heard of the Bob Marshall Wilderness?
No.
So there's the national parks, and the next level is the wilderness preserves.
Oh, right, okay.
You can't take
So
anything with a wheel.
You know those scenes in Tolkien and the Lord of the Rings?
Yeah,
when
yeah.
they're-
That's Middle-earth.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what he's talking
You can't
about.
take anything with a wheel or an engine in. So you can't take a wheelbarrow. You can't take a chainsaw in.
Okay.
The only way in is on a horse or your 2 feet.
Okay.
If you get hurt and you have to, with a sat phone, call for evac rescue with a helicopter, the helicopter cannot land. It has to get you from the air because they can't damage it in any way.
Okay.
They want to keep it as it was. So when you're walking around in there, it is like you're seeing what it looked like when Jesus was on the earth.
Oh, wow.
It's completely unchanged. There's no
beautiful.
trails. It's marvelous. And so then we float. We horseback in, float out, and it's good stuff.
Spectacular.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you about your Utah campus. So I have lots of friends that have tried to do ministry in Utah and to a wide range of success, great success, gospel works there. But would just tell us about what's your experience there? How did you guys decide to go to Utah and what's happening in Utah?
So good. Well, first of all, it's such a great city. I mean, as you know, it's kind of like this little mini Silicon Valley. A lot of tech companies, energy is there, and so there's a lot of young professionals moving into the city. So obviously, you have this Mormon grid. The city literally in Salt Lake is built with a grid.
It's a grid
everywhere
to the
you
temple.
are, you know where you
Yeah.
in relation to the
Right.
temple. And so you had that element. In our church there, which has been going on for just over 3 years, I think with interest meetings, that's true. It'd be like 2.5 years of actual services. We find a lot of Jack Mormons coming, which is what a poor Mormon gets called once they leave by their family, and sometimes they're dead to them kind of thing in the harsh like Muslim sense of like leaving the faith.
Right.
But and then we also have a lot of people who just kind of relocated to the area because our church is in the downtown core, but it's also, we see young families, we see, we see people driving from as far as Ogden, just life-giving energy to kind of what they're looking for that they wouldn't find, in a rural area. Because you get outside of Salt Lake City and parts of Utah that, unless you're going to Moab, which all the New Age stuff, you find some of these small cities, like where it's like 90-something% Mormon, it's intense.
Yeah. You know what I've just found over and over, and this is true working on the university campus, it's true where we're planting campuses. There's a certain amount of Christians nowadays that have kind of given into this thought that the gospel won't work certain places. And we've just found that to be entirely untrue. That the idea that there are a population of people waiting for someone to come in and be faithful and be nice. and to love them and to be relevant.
And to appreciate the city.
Yes, and
right.
what the city offers, and to look beyond the cliches of the stereotypes
Sure.
and actually minister them. And
Great.
what you guys do in every one of your campuses seems to be a perfect affirmation of that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I think I think a lot of times, quite honestly, this is my personal opinion, which is the only one I have, is that people overthink it in the sense of, I think the demographic profiles and the assessments of the city and trying to figure out, what are the gods of the city. I mean, I think we can overthink some of that in the sense that really it's shoot them all with the gospel and let God sort it out.
Yeah.
To some extent, I think like we moved, I don't recommend it. We moved to Kalispell, started our church on a Tuesday, started our church on a Sunday. And it wasn't like we took 6 months to really assess the city and understand what's the prime place. I think some of that stuff can actually do more harm than good in the sense that you can sort of get the cart in front of the horse.
Yeah.
Where
Where Paul said, let's go to synagogue.
let's just
Right.
trust
Just
the Holy
to- yeah, let's
Spirit.
go to that. Yeah.
Where's that? I mean,
Yeah.
I get it. It's like where's the Holy Spirit power, and let's just trust to preach. And I'm not saying don't go through the ark and don't go through, interest meetings. We're doing that stuff too. But I think if there's not that trust in the gospel that's going to change people that works in Jerusalem, Constantinople, and Rome, because it answers the 3 core fundamental issues that people's hearts have, which is why am I guilty? Where am I going to go when I die? And what's the meaning of life?
Yeah.
That everybody, if they're Mormon, no matter who they are, they're asking those questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So good. Can I ask you a deeper question than that?
Sure.
What about your tattoos?
Pretty deep.
Yeah.
It's pretty deep before that.
Your tattoos.
Yeah.
Talk to us about these tattoos. They look
Most of
fabulous,
them,
but
thank you.
They have a story, obviously.
Most of them have a story. It all started with my anchor on my heart, which we had painted on my daughter's casket when she went to heaven, and then my wife and I, kind of as our closure in that season, put on our skin. And then, which of course comes from Hebrews, and the anchor that is sure and steadfast. And then after that, I have tattoos for my kids, my 4 daughters and my son. And then I have...
Which one is Olivia?
Yes, Olivia is olives. So that's an olive branch, because Olivia, which is the number... Olivia is the number 1 girl baby name in 2019. But her name's Olivia.
She's the forerunner.
Olivia.
Okay. Olivia.
But she, so olives for Olivia, then Linya Lion, Daisy's a daisy, Clover, that's a wild clover, and then X for Lennox. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very beautiful.
It's the kids. Then the rest of them have various amounts of meaning and just fun. Pineapple comes from my book Swipe Right, where I tell the story of how the pineapple being brought over from Europe to Europe from the New World.
Okay.
Fishers of men. This is the international symbol of for friendship and handshake. Plus ultra means more beyond. It's wherever you are, there's always more beyond.
It's so good.
Used to be the motto of Spain.
Wow.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Ne plus ultra was nothing more beyond. They believed that the end of the world was the Strait of Gibraltar or the Pillars of Hercules until Columbus sailed the ocean blue.
Yes, he went down.
And then he was like, hey guys, there's more beyond.
Yeah.
So they actually took
Take it
the
off.
ne away.
The statue,
And so now plus ultra is the motto. It's emblazoned on the coins of Spain.
That's so
Even
good.
I'm learning something on the flip side. So,
Flippity flip.
the thing is, your leadership, to me, just watching for a FARC, it seems to come out of a really strong dad vibe and a strong team, a strong family. It's relational. It's all you're saying about your own EQ and that sort of stuff. Talk to us about how you lead your teams on multiple campuses. The population's spread out where you're planting and moving. How do you guys keep the cohesion? If you're talking to mom, dad, business leader, someone who just wants their roommates to get along, what are you guys doing to stay a cohesive team?
Yeah, good question. Spread out now, 4 states, 13 locations. We have a central staff, as many multi-site churches will, that's demarcated from the church locations, and the central staff exists. I work for central, so we exist to support the local churches.
Yeah.
We get up every day so that the local churches can win with preaching content, with creative, with HR, with all that stuff. And so the way we stay together would be, of course, through our values. Right now we're in a 12-month-long rehashing of our values. So every month we're going through them in depth. Last month the value was we tremble before God's word, which is value number 5.
Yeah.
And then the explanation is because it's alive. So we spent 50 minutes and going through together. We use online for that. So I brought the camera crew to my office and we gave a talk, and then that goes out to everybody. So all the what do they call them? What's the word for like a 4 or 5 person cluster? a small group.
Cohort.
Or division. I don't know.
Yeah.
What do you call them? Departments.
Yes.
The departments would sit together and watch that
Yeah,
and then have
gotcha.
a small group afterwards. So that once a month.
So there's like an anchoring in the values, then they interact and dialogue.
Yeah, and then we bring everybody into our headquarters once a year for what we call our staff advance, and that's families too, kids, parents,
Spouses,
everybody,
yeah, they're all-
everybody. My daughter's smiling off camera if she hears me because she loves the staff advance. It's
Okay.
where she gets to see all her friends, and
So cool.
And then we would have my wife would teach, I would teach multiple times. There would be goal setting. Then of course all the wives would be off doing stuff. My wife, takes all the ladies to spin classes and blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. But then the best of it all is we take the last day, full day, and it's a complete play day. We have jet skis, we have boats, we've catered. It's literally just a day of us having the best day ever. We want every kid whose parents work at the church to know that their sacrifice is honored as well. And so that I would say would be the number one thing we do. And I tell pastors who aren't doing it, like, do that immediately. It's it's a big line item, of course, the travel, the hotels, everything.
But
Yeah.
the
worth it.
reward is just.
Yeah.
And then
What's the price of not being unified?
Oh God, have
Exactly.
mercy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we bring all campus pastors in another time of the year for a campus pastor intensive where I have to stay. If they and I aren't in one, that's not going to work.
Yeah.
And then we bring all worship leaders in for a similar time once a year. So those things really move the culture forward.
Can I ask you this question? Because I don't know if it's intentionally or if it's just some semantics, but you talk about our churches. People talk about multi-site and talk about our campuses.
Sure.
But you seem to be quite intentional in talking about our churches. Does
Well,
that mean
campus
more than
is not an inspiring thing.
Okay.
It slips out, and we don't have a hard and fast rule. But to me, it's no one wants to go to a campus.
Yes.
It's like a college campus. I mean, I think people want to go to their college, or they
Yes.
want to go to their church. And so we've tried as hard as we can. Of course, we do have used the language imperfectly, as we do of broadcast campus.
Yes.
But as best as we can, we want them to just feel like that's Fresh Life Church
That's
in
good.
the Deer Lodge.
Right.
That's Fresh Life Church in Polson.
Yes.
Yeah.
So.
Man, the time has gone really quickly here.
Well, it's the coffee.
Yeah, it's the Ethiopian and the. I've been thinking a lot about Ephesians, and we were talking about Luis Palau is going to be down here, and
Yeah.
we ran this by a couple of the other leaders that have been on the podcast. There's this pivot point in chapter 4 of Ephesians where he says, live your life worthy of the calling. I urge you. If you were to urge us, Levi, if you're just going to, from your heart, your experience, your leader gifting, if you're going to urge the church, what urge would you give us in this moment?
Well, right now, personally, because it's been so beneficial to me, I would say start with God. So I find that if the number one thing I do before I've opened email, before I've been on Instagram, before I do any other thing, is to hear from God.
Yeah.
So this morning it was, the book of Job is where I'm at in my devotional schedule, and then in my Bible reading. So I'm in a devotional that just takes little scriptures and then kind of elaborates on it, but then I'm in a Bible reading app as well. So I'm in the one, give me a second to catch up with my own head. 1 Samuel, the lost donkeys,
Yes,
in
Saul.
Samuel. Okay, yeah, so that Bible reading, my Job snippet, my journaling, my prayer time, without Instagram first. And I think the order is everything for
Yeah.
me.
Yes.
Because what
Yeah,
you
yeah.
start with, you stick with.
Yeah.
And
so
if
good.
I start with hearing God's voice and that, then the rest of the day I'm not chasing the dopamine high from
Yes.
the likes and the notifications and the
Yes.
blah, blah, blah. So I would say we're living in this day where we've been given such a powerful thing, and you have to appreciate. Someone said seldom do people realize the historic when they're living through it. No generation in the history of mankind has had airplane travel, internet, has had Instagram, all of these things that are great for all the good they can do,
Yeah, yeah.
but they're just a big thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they've proven that social media lights up the same part of your brain as heroin does.
Right, yeah.
That's right.
Fact. And then we have laws surrounding gambling. We have laws
Right.
surrounding alcohol,
Yeah.
but we hand our 14-year-olds phone like have a good life. It's like
Yeah.
so to me the same impact we would say to our kids of regulating what this is doing, the addiction that comes from it, to ourselves. And I
Yes.
find if I start with Jesus, my whole day goes. I'm in a greater position of control. So I encourage you or exhort you. What was the word?
Urge you.
I urge you. What version is that?
It's NIV.
NIV.
Mm-hmm.
The
I urge you
newly,
therefore.
what is that? New International Version?
New
The
International.
Northern Ireland version.
Northern Ireland Version. Because I'm trying to think, what was that? What is it in the New King James? Endeavor. I'm trying to remember the version I memorized it in. Anyhow,
Yeah.
my urge you would be start with God.
Start
Okay,
with God.
wonderful.
Awesome. Thank you, Levi.
Thank you.
You know, I hope every time you watch the podcast, listen to the podcast, whether it be YouTube or iTunes or Facebook, you get one or two things. And I tell you, the one I want you to get is what you start with, you stick with.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, our whole vision here is to make sure the Bible's not something we do on Sunday morning, but we're just walking and living in the freedom, the truth that God can bring. And by the way, if you need to, if you know, I mean, someone who just needs to start with God and get a refreshed boot of that, make sure that you tell them about the Flip Side. Share it, like it, subscribe, and leave a really tough theological question for Andrew in the comments so he can ask them. You know, I'll take the light ones, he'll take the heavy ones, and we'll actually learn some stuff together. I can't tell you how much it means to us that you're making this endeavor to walk out the Bible in your life, so thanks for joining us.